Greetings and salutations, and welcome to episode 167 of Ref the District. I'm Nathan Perry. That's the Stoner. That's Trev here on Ref the District, a part of the Believe Network. And today's show, we're going to be talking about the decision makers in the cool down as far as who is the one in charge of picking the QB, whose voice matters the most. That's going to come from Gus Bus, who gave us that comment. I did not set it up for a mock draft, but that's something I can possibly do very quickly as we have discussions. But that will be there in the cool down. During the game, we're going to be talking about round two. The focus up to this point on most people, for most people, has been, who are we taking at number two? Well, we're going to change that up. Who are we taking in round two is the question we want to answer as we start to look at some of the places that we can go. And yes, maybe Locked On Law here is right. We're not taking anybody in the second because we move up to the first round to get the player we want. We'll discuss that as an option as well. And here in the warm-up, it is your March Madness QB edition update. As we've finished round two, Jayden Daniels clearing Michael Penix Jr. easily, 89% of the votes. He will go on to the finals, as both Stoner and I took Jayden Daniels as well. Trev, I still want to hear your opinion on this matchup, though. Both seasoned QBs, one Heisman winner, electric, but the other one pretty darn good. And as he showed in his pro day, has some wheels himself.
I'm taking Jayden Daniels.
Just Jayden Daniels straight up. Yep. It came down to health, and also Jayden Daniels just is the most electric player outside of Caleb Williams. And even there's an argument that he might be just as electric as Caleb Williams. So it's hard to pass that up. Now, he might be going up against JJ McCarthy because I've selected JJ McCarthy. Stoner selected JJ McCarthy. However, our fans have taken, our viewers have taken Drake Maye 69% to 31% in nearly 1,500 votes. So still a clear victory for Maye. It was the closest poll we've had thus far, but it's still very clearly in Drake Maye's favor. Trev, you're a Carolina guy. You love the blue. You love the Tar Heels.
I do.
Who you taking here?
JJ McCarthy.
JJ, you're not taking Drake Maye, your guy?
No, nope, I'm not. I think I said this a long time ago on my Twitter. I said it on here. I think he's Sam Howell 2.0. They followed the same footsteps. Sam Howell was better his junior year than his senior year. He had more around him his junior year, better offensive line junior year, better year junior year. Senior year, he still put up some numbers, but it wasn't quite as good as junior, but still good enough to warrant him as a first-round pick. But what happened? He slid down to the fifth. Drake Maye was behind him. He put up some gaudy numbers too, but he's just like Sam Howell. He can move, yes, but he's not electric when he moves. He's not a playmaking quarterback with his legs. He just has them when he needs them, and so to speak. And also, he went 8-4 in the ACC, and a lot of the games where he put up gaudy numbers, they were blown out. So he was throwing bombs the rest of the game, and then that's how he's collecting stats.
The Kirk Cousins effect, right? Like
exactly.
Of course, you're going to put up gaudy numbers when you're down 20 points.
Exactly. So I'm taking JJ. People say, well, he barely threw at Michigan. Well, that's fine. It's because he didn't have to. They had a really good running game, but when he was asked to throw, he was really, really good at it, especially at the play action scheme. So he's a national champion. He's had more college game experience than Drake Maye. Drake Maye's only played like 20-some games in his college career. Jayden Daniels has played almost 50. And then I think second was JJ McCarthy, if not Caleb Williams. So I'll take him. Comes from Jim Harbaugh. We know what the Harbaugh coaching tree is like and the coaching is like. So I'm just taking JJ McCarthy. He's a much better quarterback that I think that can help you win now or have success now rather than Drake Maye.
Let me ask you this, Trev. And I get the comparisons to Sam Howell. I think they might be a little too easy just because of where they came from. And some of the comparisons that you said make sense, but I think they can be a little too easy. Sam Howell was drafted in the 5th round behind guys like Pickett and Corral and Desmond Ritter. And I don't even remember who the guy was in the 4th round who got selected. You guys remember who that was? Or maybe it was
3rd round Willis, right?
Yeah,
Malik Willis is another guy, right?
Yeah.
All those guys got drafted ahead of Sam Howell. Drake Maye is going to be a top 10 pick this year.
Yeah, probably the 3rd pick.
Over guys who you would select before Kenny Pickett and Malik Willis and Desmond Ritter, right? He's going to be selected before those and before Penix. I mean, you would take Penix before you would take Kenny Pickett. You would take Bo Nix before you would take Malik Willis as an examples. The skill set on Drake Maye really is no comparison to Sam Howell. So while I get the comparisons of the things that you brought up, I just don't think that their skill set is anywhere close. And Drake Maye is 1,000 times better quarterback prospect than Sam Howell ever was, even when Sam Howell was projected to be the number 1 pick after his sophomore year. Maybe it was
first round pick, not number 1. Just first round.
Yeah, 1st round pick. So I think that's where the comparisons fall off between the two of them. So I think it might be just kind of a little too easy to say he's Howell 2.0.
And we don't want to fall into the trap where we've seen, Ohio State, right? That was that was the one that for the longest time we're like, don't draft an Ohio State QB. They're all bad. CJ Stroud does phenomenal his rookie year. Okay. And now the saying that I've been hearing a lot is don't take a UNC quarterback because they're all bad. You have Trubisky, you have Sam Howell, who still shows some promise at least. And then now you have Drake Maye. I don't know about 2.0. One of the things kind of in line with Stoner here is both of them, you're right. They had phenomenal year the year before they were being drafted, right? Like their year going into the draft, not great, at least not as good as the year before. Where I think the difference lies is Sam Howell, his flaws, I think, were more apparent, which is why he drops to the 5th round. With Drake Maye, you have flaws, but you still have a lot of those wow plays. If you're to just watch highlight reel tapes of Drake Maye, you would want to take him in the top 3 picks.
Sure.
There's more to it than that. And that's where, Stoner and I and you, Trev, will say that there's some inconsistencies, which is why I would take JJ over there. But I mean, it's not as clear cut. There's going to be some team who is going to take Drake Maye, probably the Patriots, because I do think right now Jayden Daniels is probably the pick at 2, and Drake Maye will be there for them. And I mean,
maybe
his thing in this, and this is the question I have. And first, before I get to this question, let me shout out everybody in the chat first here with Yam, because we do stream live every Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Yam joining us live for the first time back in the great United States of America. So Yam, thanks for joining us here on a much more timely, no longer in the morning before class. Nicole here as well. Uptown Dre, Locked on Law, JG in the house, Joshua, Tommy T getting on us for our JJ Love. Deluxe, I don't have an answer for this question, Deluxe, but if we can dig this up, I would love to hear it, because this is also something I think that, to me, JJ is phenomenal with. 3rd down, he is money on 3rd down. So there's some good there. Couple of things I want to get here with Just B before we get to that question I was going to pose. Peters is not going to risk his job on JJ McCarthy. Just B had said. The thing is Peters isn't risking his job on any of these picks. He's going to be here for 4 to 5 years at least. And it's going to be not centered around this. It's going to be what he does with the rest of the roster. So even if they miss on this QB, If it's Jayden Daniels and he has an RG3 rookie season and then is out for the rest of it, you're not going to, Peters isn't losing his job for that. Okay. Peters is going to continue as long as he hits on some of the other draft picks. Winning and losing is going to come down to the coach. And we're going to get into that in the decision maker. And that is why I think there's going to be some kind of power struggle, not really power struggle, but why there's voices coming from each direction on who is going to be the one selecting the QB.
Can I sum up what you just said, Nathan?
You can sum up.
You said that if Adam Peters misses on Jayden Daniels, or sorry,
whoever the pick is at 2,
whoever the quarterback is at 2.
Yeah. In this case, Just B was saying JJ, risking his career on JJ McCarthy.
You think that he's going to get a second chance at it in this day and age of the NFL, where, as we just saw with Houston, and the entire everyone is going to start copying Houston now, right? They're all going to be get that good quarterback, right? Suck, get that good quarterback, and then go all in until that quarterback gets to his second contract, and then you can't go all in anymore. That's the new framework for the NFL. And so you think that if they miss out on that, regardless of what the rest of the roster looks like, that he's going to get a second shot at it?
Yes.
I don't think so. I don't think
the roster is good. If he has
kidding me right now?
On the roster, he will get a second shot.
How many chances has Josh Harris given the Philadelphia 76ers and Daryl Morey to get it right?
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair question, being that Josh Harris is.
He's not just going to throw Adam Peters to the Wolves if we miss this season.
I mean, okay, there's some nuance to that, of course, because it depends on what he does with the rest of the roster, of course, right? And it depends on their record, of course. It depends on a lot of other things. But if he has a massive New York Jets Zach Wilson type miss, you're going to allow that GM to go out and get another quarterback? You're going to allow John Lynch to miss on Trey Lance and then absolutely get lucky with Brock Purdy? You're going to let Adam Peters do that?
So your question is a segue to the cool down, by the way. So I'm not going to keep engaging on that because we might answer that for that. But I did find out the rushing thing for Drake Maye.
Excellent.
He's accounted for 42 first downs while running the ball on third and fourth down in the past 2 seasons. That's what I found so far. So if you take that divided by 2, that's over 20 touchdowns with his legs. I mean, first down, so third and fourth down in the past each season.
Now do that with JJ McCarthy. Can you do that with JJ McCarthy as well?
Yeah, that'll be interesting in that regard. And so we'll continue the decision-making conversation in a little bit about this, as far as Adam Peters isn't risking his job taking someone here at 2. And this is the other aspect of this. Yam saying JJ would only be our pick if we trade back. No way we take him at 2. And then following up with this is Gus, would you prefer JJ if you can get him at number 4 and get another first round pick next year after all the wheeling and dealing? If Adam Peters wants JJ, he'll be taken at 2. They're not going to risk losing their opportunity for their QB. I don't think they're willing to move back, especially because who are you moving back with? You're not moving back with Arizona. Arizona's not trying to jump up.
Right.
The Chargers at 5 are not trying to jump up.
Right.
You have the Giants at 6, and they could be taking a QB.
Right.
Yep.
So there's no way. I don't see any kind of world outside of Hollywood, Kevin Costner, The Draft, where there's this whole move back up, take the guy you want type thing. They're just going to take the QB they want it to.
I think they could move back possibly, but as Gus pointed out, 4 is the farthest you can go back. And like you said, now Arizona is not looking for a quarterback at 4, but if you do some sort of 3 different team trade, like you do a 3-team trade and you somehow end up at number 4, but they can't go to 5 or 6 and risk somebody jumping up and doing that. So I would be okay if they did that. Again, JJ McCarthy though has to be their guy. They can't do it just to get extra picks. They can't be we're a Jayden Daniels guy, but somebody comes in and offers this incredible deal, and so we're going to move back and we're going to take JJ McCarthy and not Jay. You can't. That's what I don't think you can do. You have to find your guy. You have to lock in on him, and then you got to figure out a way to get him. Whether that means moving up to 1, whether that means taking him at 2, or moving back to 3 or 4. But you can't go past 4. I can tell you that right now, because you're not going to get him, or you're not going to get somebody's going to move up in front of you if you go back further than 4.
Silver Fox here. What happens if we don't love any of these guys? That would be surprising to me. I really think that you can tell from everywhere. There might be smoke screens on who we're taking at 2, but there's no smoke screens at all. Washington plans on taking a QB, and they plan on taking one early. Michael Penix Jr. would have been one of these options of trading back and trying to get Michael Penix Jr. later, or picking Joe Alt at 2 and then jumping back up in the first round to get Michael Penix Jr. or Bo Nix. But all the signals say that they're going to take one of these top QBs. The smoke screen right now is about which one, not about if they're going to take one.
Yeah, I agree with that.
We went to all 3 of their pro days. We didn't go to Bo Nix. We didn't go to Washington. We didn't go to.
They had representatives, but they're looking at one of these top 3 QBs that we're talking about. But Penix is out. Right now, we have to decide, are we going to go with what the fans want, what the viewers want, which is Drake Maye? Are we going to go with JJ McCarthy, who we all selected, is the question. Yam earlier saying there's zero reason for Maye to be getting the hate he has been getting other than people using it to smokescreen to hope he falls to them. Yam, I disagree with you. There is actual concern about Drake Maye. And this is the question I wanted to pose earlier. And I want you to answer here in the comment section for me. And I'm asking Stoner and Trev here as well. Stoner, you kind of got a chance to answer this. Do you draft the guy who could be a 10, but he could also be a 1 because of the inconsistencies, the stuff that you've seen? He could just never put it together. Or are you going to take the guy who is probably a solid 5? And you see right now that he could be like an 8. He might be a 10, but realistically, you're looking at somebody who's like a 5 to an 8.
Yeah.
A 10 being the best, QB that you can have. So which one do you want to take? You're at the 2 pick, Trev. Which one? Who are you going to take?
The 5 to 8.
The 5 to 8. The solid, the Andy Dalton, the Matt Ryans, the Kirk Cousins, the ones who are just going to be a solid QB, but maybe never one of the top 5 QBs.
Yeah, I'm taking the 5 to 8 because we've, especially here in Washington, we've experienced way too much inconsistency. So why am I going to do that again and just repeat history over and over again?
Has Adam Peters suffered those inconsistencies here in Washington? I mean, why should what's happened in the past have any effect on what Adam Peters does?
Because if he wants to bring winning to the organization, you can't repeat what has not been bringing winning to the organization. I don't care who you are, what your name is, where you came from in your background. You can't do it. So 5 to 8, because you got a solid player. He might show 5s more than 8s, but at least it's not going to be lower than a 5. It's going to give you a chance every game. 1 to 10 is like, oh, he could have a 4-game winning streak, and then we could do what Sam Howell did and lose 8 straight games in a row, and here we are in quarterback turmoil again. So I'm taking 5 to 8.
No, I mean, I would never ever do the 5 to 8 versus the 1 to 10 guy. I'm always going to go for the biggest risk, the higher upside, for sure, because I mean that's the nature of what these guys do. The nature is weighing your risk against reward, and your reward is going to be so much higher. So I would definitely take a guy who has a higher upside, but also has the potential to be a bigger bust. I want Adam Peters to take Trey Lance, for example. I want them moving up to take Trey Lance because they loved him and they thought he was going to be the future. I don't want them trading for Jimmy G and having Jimmy G be your quarterback, who is a 5 to 8 guy, right? Trey Lance is a 1 to 10 guy. and Jimmy G's a 5 to 8 guy. And Jimmy G took him to the Super Bowl,
Mhm.
but he couldn't quite get them over the hump, right? And he was only there for a couple of years. Now I'm giving you kind of the argument that is totally blowing up in my face, right? Because Trey Lance is an absolute bust in what they did. But that's the risk I want these guys to take. I want them to zero in on a guy who has higher upside than anybody and go do whatever it takes to go get him. And if it blows up in your face, it blows up in your face. But not kind of settle for a guy who's pretty good and can do some good things and take you to the Super Bowl, quite possibly. But then the next year, he's pretty much gone because he's just not good enough. I want the high risk guy. And that's why I would probably that's why I would definitely take a Daniels over some of these other guys.
But you picked JJ, who is the Alex Smith, who is the 5 to 8 guy
Against Drake Maye.
Against Drake Maye. Drake Maye could be a 10. And he really does have a lot of traits. He has a strong arm. He's got these wow throws. He's got legs. When he's on point, he's got great accuracy. You can see him trying to process. He throws over the middle. And as far as this question here from JG, where is Maye the clearly superior QB? He's got the size. The guy is 6'4", like 225 pounds. He is a prototypical QB size. Not saying that's going to win games, but that is what people drool over, and he has that potential to be a 10, Stoner.
Yeah, that's I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I'm a risk taker. I'm a guy who wants to go for it. And like I said, although Trey Lance blew up in their face in San Francisco, that's still the type of risk takers I want in my front office. I want go get RG3 and it blows up in your face, or go draft Kirk Cousins in the 4th round and be pretty good for a while. I mean, yeah, that's fine, but I want RG3 and I want that excitement and I want that hope and I want that chance for glory rather than just kind of getting a guy and stumbling on down the field. I don't know. It's a tough sort of question to look at. I think I might have done that on accident. My apologies. It's a tough dilemma to kind of go through, but I want risk takers. I don't want guys coming in here. I don't want Ron Rivera going in and getting Ryan Fitzpatrick and Carson Wentz. Well, Carson Wentz, I was kind of okay with. This is a little bit of a bigger risk. I don't want
I was
Ryan
never
Fitzpatrick
okay with Carson Wentz as a QB. I was only okay with it because we had 1 year risk with him.
Yeah, that's the kind of GM I want, please.
Well, it sounds like you really do want Drake Maye, because despite what Locked On Moss says here, is Drake Maye could be a 10. We don't know. Even JJ McCarthy could be a 10. I'm just kind of basing this off of what you're looking at. JJ McCarthy is looked as the lesser one, and a large part of that is the unknown factor. He doesn't have a lot of volume stats. He doesn't have a lot of throws. So both these are young QBs. We don't know. And to answer Deluxe question here, because this is a great question, and I don't think a lot of people are trying to think like this. What's more important to you, year 1 floor ceiling or year 3 floor ceiling? Who gives a better chance year 1, and who gives a better chance in year 3?
Man, you're going to hate my answer.
Go ahead.
Mine's going to be year 1, because I can't sort of,
I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't project out 3 years on an NFL player.
You can't have a Peyton Manning 1-15 season where he throws more interceptions than touchdowns. You can't wait for that.
I can't. I can't wait for that. I have to have a guy. Look, I mean, you just look over in last year's quarterbacks and the top 2 quarterbacks, 1 and 2, right? You have Bryce Young may end up being an excellent quarterback, but look where Houston is right now. And Houston with CJ Stroud, and they're at that year 1 ceiling. He hit his ceiling basically, right? He was awesome, one of the best rookie seasons ever at the quarterback position. And they're all of a sudden they're on this trajectory. And we don't know where year 2 and year 3 is going to be. But we definitely don't know where year 2 and year 3 is going to be in Carolina. You don't see Carolina going out and trading for Stephon Diggs and signing Joe Mixon and all this other
No,
stuff.
they're trading away Brian Burns and getting
Exactly.
rid of
because they're not
know?
sure. He still has
DJ
that
Moore.
ceiling. I think that year 3 ceiling, right? Bryce Young does in Carolina, but you just don't know. So here you are back in kind of limbo with Carolina in terms of what they're going to do this offseason. So I'd rather have the Houston model to where you get that ceiling in year 1 so you know what you got and then you can go for it, rather than the Carolina ceiling of maybe he's going to get there by year 3. And you're just
the problem with Bryce Young is he didn't have a good year, period. Like there's QBs. Look at Justin Fields. Okay. His rookie year, like when they finally put him in, because their plan was to sit him, he at least showed flashes that, hey, he could be the QB. He ends up not being the QB and they trade him away. But you're right. I hate your answer, because to me, it is the longevity. Who's going to be, because this isn't a decision for now. Okay. This is a decision for, the duration of the coach's career, right? This is a franchise deciding decision here. And this is also why I personally do draft that guy who's a 5 to 8. Okay. I really like JJ. And that's, I think that he is going to be the best pro out of the 3 that are in discussion right here.
You think he's going to be the best pro out of Maye, McCarthy, Daniels?
I do.
Oh my God. Trev, where's that mute button? I can't
you
find
can
it.
Mute me all you want here. I'm saying 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And this makes sense why Stoner's a Danny boy. Okay. He loves himself some Jayden Daniels.
Yep.
And that makes sense because year 1, he has the highest floor as a running QB. He absolutely, like, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets 1,000 yards rushing his rookie year and he throws for like 3,000 and he's offensive rookie of the year. Okay. I completely can see that.
Yeah.
His full career, whether or not that's going to be consistent or whether or not he's going to be a Justin Fields who ends up being traded, 3 years afterwards because he didn't show the growth and improvement.
Okay. All right, Nathan. So
did you have this? Hold on. Did you have this same mindset when we went and got RG3? Were you thinking, in 3 years we're gonna be there, or were you like,
I was in love with RG3 the year before we drafted him. I was telling Stoner,
you saw him,
this is the guy. Yeah, I've seen him in person, and I see he was a special player. I really think if RG3 did not get injured, he would have had a much more productive career. He might not have ever hit it because he definitely looked bad when we got to see him in Baltimore. But that was also years of not trying to really develop his talent, right? Or like years of sitting behind, and he just wasn't the same quarterback. But yeah, that rookie year was special.
Isn't that kind of the same thing though? Heisman winner, threw for a lot of touchdowns, ran for a lot of yards, threw less and less picks. Here we are this year, Jayden Daniels, 50 touchdowns, Heisman winner, less picks, a lot of running yards, and you still think that JJ is going to be a better pro? What
for the duration? Yes, I do. And I do want to clarify here, JG. I did not say Caleb Williams. I said the ones that we were discussing, which were Maye, Daniels, and JJ McCarthy.
Because earlier, crazy.
Yeah, earlier Gregory had asked, do you think the Bears could take Daniels over Williams? I know everyone and the grandmother are saying that Caleb Williams is a concrete at 1. He is, but if for whatever reason the Bears do not go with Caleb Williams, you do not hesitate. You do not take the 10 minutes. You do not give the graphics person any time. You just go up there and you take Caleb Williams. There's zero doubt in my mind.
Yeah, you go ahead and pan to the scene where his family is celebrating. Don't even show the Bears pick. Just pan to
just go. Just take it. And just already have the jersey ready for the commissioner, right? And he just like, okay, with the first overall pick, Jayden Daniels, okay, move out of the way. Caleb Williams with the number 2 pick. Like, just do it back to back. It'd be that silly.
So let me ask you this then, Nathan, based on what you were saying. You would rather be Carolina this offseason. You would rather be Carolina this offseason. Because make no mistake, Bryce Young was the number 1 consensus number 1 pick by just about everybody over CJ Stroud. And so CJ Stroud had the big first year, but Bryce Young is still, or at that time anyway, was projected to be the number, the guy who's going to be great in 3 years. So you'd rather be Carolina this offseason.
I'm going to tag team Nathan on this.
Yeah,
because and simply, I know it's whatever, but this is the facts. Bryce Young was thrown into a horrible situation in Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The Texans had a little bit more to work with CJ Stroud from the coaching staff, front office to the players than Bryce Young did. Bryce Young had Frank Reich. He had Frank Reich, who since he was with Carson Wentz, people think he's a quarterback whisperer. That's not the case. You see that. That's why he lost his job midway through the season. He had no running back. His wide receiver one was Adam Thielen. The best player in the face of the franchise was Brian Burns, not even Bryce Young. It was Brian Burns.
Mm-hmm.
You go to Houston, you got Nico Collins, who's been not like what he is now, but he's been there. Tank Dell. You got Dameon Pierce. You had DeMeco Ryans, who, we already came from San Francisco, got Houston, coaching staff is better. So he was placed in a better system and organization than Bryce Young. Bryce Young was asked to go in there and be Bryce Young with two sticks and a little jewel ball.
You're totally looking
so
at
that's
it.
That's why using Carolina. Use who was the third quarterback taken
last year? Gosh, I don't even remember. Somebody will have to remind us who the third quarter. But Trev, that's not fair. You're looking at it from.
Well, it's just the facts. I know it's not fair, but it's
not
facts.
fair after trying to tell us that we want to be Carolina. Get out of here.
Yeah, because it's like one made the playoffs and one didn't even know how to spell playoffs. They were that bad. So it's obvious you wouldn't want to be Carolina. But if you pick somebody that's kind of like the same, then we can talk. But that's obvious. No, you wouldn't be Carolina. You were thrown in.
Houston was a laughing stock prior to this past year.
I know, but then DeMeco Ryans came and started helping build that culture. You didn't know DeMeco Ryans was going to be that guy. You didn't know that Nico Collins was going to flourish. You didn't know that Tank Dell, who you had never heard of, was going to have a great rookie year. Dameon Pierce was basically a nobody this year. He was somebody last year. He was pretty good. Okay.
But
all right.
Houston was a laughing stock
last year.
And Carolina, still a laughing stock, but still the same situation. Now you're all acting like, well, yeah, Houston, it was such a great situation that, of course, we would want to be have that situation here in Washington. Well, yeah, now that you're looking at it now, but that's cheating.
Well, then how are we supposed to look at it if we can't? How do we know Carolina's going to be like that if we didn't see that result happen there at the season? So how are we supposed to look at it?
It's so easy to just say that, you want to have the quarterback, the CJ Stroud, you want to have Tank Dell and Nico Collins and all that. Well, they didn't have that last year, and we all laughed at them. And then they took CJ Stroud, and a lot of people laughed at CJ Stroud selection as well. Ohio State quarterback, not worthy of the number 2 pick, so on and so forth. And now all of a sudden, everyone's copying what they're doing. What happened to Nathan?
I muted myself because I went to go pin the comment because Houston is the exception, not the rule. Tommy hits that one on the head. I'm going to go ahead and hide that comment now, but it is pinned to the top because this conversation is driving me mad. Okay. People want us to be Houston. How about we be Washington and we just try to be successful however we can with Dan Quinn, Adam Peters, Kliff Kingsbury, Joe Witt Jr. Like these are who we have. We don't have DeMarco Ryans. We don't have CJ Stroud. The conversation about CJ Stroud, yes, people were laughing at Houston because they thought that he was taken too high. They thought other quarterbacks were going to be taken before CJ Stroud, but people laughed at Detroit. Detroit worked out. We happened to get somebody from the Detroit front office, but we're not talking about these teams right now. We're literally just talking about these QBs. And as far as the conversation about being Carolina, no, what I want to be is a successful franchise. And I do think Adam Peters is going to take whoever he feels is going to make this a successful franchise. Yes, personally, I think that in the long run, JJ McCarthy will be a successful QB. I like Jayden Daniels. I think he's an explosive player. I do have my concerns with him. It has nothing to do with his age. It has nothing to do with him running. It has nothing to do with any of that kind of stuff that people normally pick. I like Drake Maye. Drake Maye is an exciting player. He could be a 10. He could be a Josh Allen type player. However, that does come with the Josh Allen type mistakes because he is very inconsistent. Or Justin Herbert. You love Justin Herbert, Stoner. And Drake Maye could be a Justin Herbert type player who is just good enough to be an exciting young player, but maybe not good enough to take this team over the next hump. Okay? All these players have great potential.
Yeah.
And we're going to be lucky enough to take one at 2.
You're absolutely right. We do enjoy kind of debating these different quarterbacks and whether or not we like them or whether we want Washington to draft them or what we think Washington is going to do at number 2. But I think we are going to be, regardless of who they take it to, any of those 3 guys, although I think it's really down to just those 2 of Daniels and Maye, whoever it's going to be exciting and we're going to be all in. And there's a good shot that Washington finally gets to the point to where we don't have to worry about quarterback for the next hopefully 5 to 8 years. And we haven't been in this position in quite a while. So that part to me is exciting. And it doesn't matter who it is, I think.
It's going to be much more important about the team around the player that they take at 2, because those decisions matter just as much. And we've had that conversation before. Justin Herbert being drafted rather than Chase Young wouldn't be the Justin Herbert we see out in LA, because he would have had Ron Rivera. He would have had, Eric Bieniemy potentially. Like, it would be a very different player. Washington has a staff right now that looks pretty exciting for whoever they're going to take at 2. And then they're trying to build up a franchise through the draft. And we'll see who they take there in round 2 here during the game. Welcome to the game, round 2. We had to leave that QB conversation because we were going in circles and getting all amped up about different teams. But now we want to talk about our team. We do have to get to a decision later on who we will move to the final round in our March Madness QB edition. As right now we're kind of split with the viewers, and we make content for you, the viewers. And so we might end up with Drake Maye, but that's a conversation for the cool down. Let's move into this conversation about round 2. Washington has a lot of day 2 picks, so many that we've discussed behind the scenes. Maybe we should do a live show for day 2, because there's going to be more action for us on day 2 than there will be in day 1, where we pick at number 2 and then we sit for the next couple hours waiting for things to happen. So we will decide that later as a team whether or not we can. But right now, let's take a look at who Washington should be looking at in round 2. Trev, lots of needs on this team. One glaring hole could be said that it's at a tackle. Who are you looking at, or are you just looking at positions when it comes into round 2?
I think we should take with our 36 and 40. I'm just going by the numbers that were on the promos today. A tackle and an edge. I might have said cornerback, but I'm switching to edge if I said cornerback. Definitely an offensive lineman, a tackle, because what's left of free agency is the vet minimum 1 year, backup journeyman, and a career kind of guys. And we've been through that already with the Donald Pins, the Eric Flowers, you know what I'm saying? So I'm kind of over that. So yeah, go get you a tackle at 36. And then at 40, go get you a nice edge. I see that Rice guy from Mizzou. He's pretty nice. People might say Chop Robinson won't be there, but if he is, you go get Chop Robinson. He's a hometown guy, being from Maryland, and he was really good at Penn State. I think this year's, and I say that because even though we haven't seen a game yet, we haven't seen anything on the field, but just by how the defensive coaching staff was built, I think they know exactly the kind of players, along with Adam Peters, that will fit our defense. Rather than when we took Chase Young, it felt like we just, if you were an Ohio State fan, you just watch the highlight tapes, you watch the games on national television if they're broadcasted, and we just took him because he was the best player available at number 2. He was the predator, And I think we took him not really know how we're going to use him, when we're going to use him, how often we're going to use him, yada, yada, yada. But this defensive staff gives me confidence that they have the vision of what they will fit their defensive mold, which means I think it'll be an advantage and a benefit for them to go get an edge this early or go get a defensive player this early after you go get your tackle at 36. So I'm going tackle and an edge.
Stoner, you were poo-pooing on the idea of trading up earlier. If they were to trade up, it looks like they would go for one of the tackles that they like. Do you think that you seem to think that they're just going to stand pat and try to take one here in the second round?
Yeah, you're saying that I was poo-pooing moving up in the.
Yeah, you were shaking your head earlier for our audio listeners when someone suggested that we're not going to pick in the second round because they're going to move up to take a guy.
I must have been listening to something else because I like that idea. Because here's the problem, and don't take this wrong. This might be a little inflammatory, but I think it doesn't mean I don't have any confidence in this front office. But I think they botched the left tackle and free agency issue. I think they botched it because I don't know that there's a left tackle available that's worthy of the 36th or 40th pick. So, but you want to take a left tackle, right? So you didn't get one in free agency. You don't want to overdraft at 36 or 40 or underdraft or whatever the right term is. And you don't want to go into next season with a rookie quarterback and Cornelius Lucas or some guy off the scrap heap playing left tackle. I think they botched the left tackle position this offseason. We all talk about how we want this team to not go out in free agency and just start spreading all this money around and signing all these guys like some teams have. But I think they should have done that for left tackle, whether it's the Smith from Dallas or any of the two guys from New England or wherever. I think they botched it. Now, it doesn't mean I don't have confidence in them, but I don't like what's going to happen at left tackle this next year, unless they move up back into the first round using 36-40, and it might take you another pick next year, like a fourth rounder next year or something, and go and get a tackle that's worthy of that high pick.
Yeah. I'm fully on board with that. I think that that's probably the route they're going to go unless they take one of these people who are on, the scrap heap, like you were saying, Bakhtiari is going to be potentially out there. You still have a few free agent ones out there. Becton, formerly of the New York Jets, is still a free agent at this time.
You can't do that with a rookie quarterback. That's malpractice.
But also all these tackles that got signed, I didn't see any long-term, longer than 1 year, 2 year deals. So
that is also what they're doing right now, right? They're signing a bunch of Adam Peters signed a bunch of 1, 2, 3 year deals.
To Stoner's point, if you want your left tackle, I feel like they want their left tackle and the quarterback to grow together relatively at the same time. I don't feel like they want to go spend $20 million for one season for an unhealthy Tyron Smith who hasn't finished the season I don't know how many years, and then be right back at the same position next year here again, looking for a left tackle. Or we don't go get Donovan Smith, who, he's been good with the Chiefs Super Bowl, but he's at the end of his prime, too many holding calls. We could do that. But obviously, I think if we wanted to do that, we would have done it. Because a lot of these signings happened on the hush-hush. We didn't know that we were getting a Michael Davis, a cornerback. We didn't know we were getting another linebacker who's probably going to be a depth special teams guy. They're doing this stuff quietly. I think that they went after the guys that are going to fit what our vision is, and that's not spending $20 million for a guy at the end of his prime in Tyron Smith or Mekhi Becton or anybody else. So maybe they go get somebody that can grow with our rookie quarterback together to help build that continuity.
See, I'm with Tommy on this one. I would rather. I would rather
Well,
the vet left tackle than a rookie left tackle.
But we also have vets already on the offensive line that could help develop a left.
You have a swing tackle and a guy nobody likes. Nobody likes
You
Wiley.
got Cosme, you got Wiley, you got our center who's experienced, you got the guard who's been experienced. So they can all help the young left tackle that gets drafted.
But there's there's a level of vet left tackles. Okay,
sure. Yeah.
Why don't you just bring Charles Leno back? Right,
well, he's got a hip injury, but Charles Leno was a pickup from the Chicago Bears after he was cut, and he was serviceable. I'm not trying to gaslight
So there's still
people.
chances that we could sign one after cuts too, but
and there may be somebody that shakes free, but the level of vet that I want there at left tackle, yes, I want a vet there at left tackle. That's what I'm saying. That Washington may have botched it this offseason in not getting a good.
You were really high on Trent Brown and Tyron Smith. You loved those.
Yeah, and Onwenu.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, he's more of a right tackle, but
right. But
at least replace Wiley.
But that's I don't want the guys. I don't want scrap heap guys. I don't want the Bakhtiaris and who are some of the other guys that are still left, like the Mekhi Becton and I mean Jason Peters. He's like 100, or guys like that. I don't want those kind of veteran guys. I want the Tyron Smiths and
who's this
Wenu and guys like that.
Who's to say we botched it? Maybe we talked to these guys and we don't feel comfortable paying $20 million for 1 year for Tyron Smith with banged up knees. Like,
it wasn't like they were signed right away, right? Like they were out there for a bit.
So I don't know if we botched it. It's just we probably said that they don't fit our vision. Like we don't know we're so used to like this happening with the bad front office and coaching staff that when we have quality people in a position, it's like, wait, what are you doing? It's like maybe they have the vision. We don't know because they're very quiet.
That doesn't mean that's a bad decision now. Just because a previous regime did it and it didn't work out doesn't mean it's a bad decision now. So signing Tyron Smith to a 1 year, $20 million deal may be a great free agent pickup. It's not a question of money. It's not a question of long-term deal. They have all of that at their fingertips to be able to use, but they decided not to. That's where I think they botched it. I would have given Jonah Williams.
He just tore his ACL last year.
Okay, I'm kind of using that as
the duality of man here, as Steve was high on Jonah Williams here, and then
all the tackles that are left have been injury. Like their career has been hurt by injuries. All the ones that are left, and I don't really want to waste $20 million on that. If that's the case, what are we even talking about with all these other players that we've signed? Why don't we just go make splashy? They said at the beginning we're not going to make a big splashy move at all during the end of the offseason.
And didn't.
That's why I didn't think we were going to go get a Tyron Smith or anybody else.
That again,
$20 million.
That doesn't mean it's the right decision.
I know, but I don't think they botched it. It just didn't work out.
Yeah, it might be too early to say they botched it. I think Stoner is only saying they botched it because he liked the top two guys and they didn't get it. Not only did they not get the top two guys, but they have a glaring hole there that you have. Now you're looking at the draft and you have to do this. And I'm with Uptown Dre here. I'm not, when I say get a vet tackle like a Becton or something like that, I'm not trying to patch the line. I do want to draft. Uptown Dre here. Stop patching up the freaking line and draft. What are we talking about, fellas? Well, one of the things we're talking about is just trying to make sure when we go into this draft, you don't have a glaring hole, because now you need to find a left tackle. And the problem I have with the guys who are going to be available at 36 or 40 is they're primarily right tackles.
Right.
You're going to have to move up to get a left tackle prospect.
Right.
And that's why I think that's going to happen. I think they're going to package whatever it takes to move up and grab a left tackle. Because if you wait and you grab one of these guys who are available here, as I moved off my the Kingsley Suamatea, right? That's a draft prospect. He's probably going to be the right tackle, not a left tackle. And also, guys, we did the data on this. Remember, we looked at the top 100 picks of the last 4 years, and tackles are just as hit and miss as QBs.
Yeah.
Okay. Tackles are not a sure thing. Interior offensive linemen tend to be better hits, but Washington's already shored up that front. So now they're just looking for a tackle, and most of the tackles available are right tackles, which is a concern for me.
Yeah. So they absolutely need to move up. Again,
what if they're
don't
gone?
want to go into next season with Cornelius Lucas at left tackle. You just don't. Or
What if
David
they're gone?
Bakhtiari. What's
What
that?
if the people that you're eyeing and you have this plan to package to move up to get, and here comes draft day and your guy goes way earlier than expected. Now what do we do?
You botched it.
Win the deep voice for that one.
Right, because you wouldn't be in this position if you had taken care of it in free agency. And I get this is not a 1-year plan that they're trying to pick together. They're trying to look years down the road. They're not trying to go to the Super Bowl next year. I get that. I totally understand that. But if you're going to have a rookie quarterback, you really don't want some of these guys that are sitting there on the roster now as being the left tackle trying to protect him, because they've done a good job of shoring up the interior part of the line. They did a good job of getting a center and a left guard, and you've got a good right guard, but they just haven't addressed that left tackle position. And now they might have to overdraft a guy, or they might have to package up those picks that they didn't really want to and go up and get a left tackle. And if they don't, because there's a run on left tackles early and it's too late for them to do it, then they botched it.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the things I think with the draft. I mean, it's all just kind of a crapshoot, and the gambling part to it is this is a talented tackle draft. Okay, there's a lot of high caliber players that you can get. There's also a lot of high caliber wide receivers. So you could gamble that one of them is going to fall to you at 36 that you like. You know, maybe you do like Kingsley, or maybe another option was Jordan Morgan from Arizona. These are both prospects that could be potentially starting caliber left tackles for you. More than likely, I think they're going to be right tackles at the end of their career. And you do need to do it, but I think you need a vet to go. And Jake and others are kind of saying this, right? It's too early. We agreed. We got to trust the staff. We got to. Sure. It's not botched right now. The Stoner is very upset they didn't get the 2 guys he wanted.
That's what it comes down to.
And going into the draft with a glaring need is a mistake.
That glaring need.
Yes.
Which is, in my opinion, the second most important position.
Yeah, you think it's the second most important.
Third most important position.
It is a very important position.
Yeah.
I agree. Third most important. Absolutely.
I think second now because of the rookie quarterback.
It's still the third most important.
Center's part is second best. He's the one who's the quarterback of the offensive line. He communicates with the quarterback.
No, but I mean, just overall, the most important position on a team.
He goes, QB, blindside blocker, and then edge is how I think he goes.
Yeah.
I personally go QB and edge, which is where this guy comes in here. This is Darius Robinson, Darius Robinson from Missouri. This is another, I feel, need for the team is an edge rusher.
Oh, and be selecting him because he's a need. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, I also think that he's a talented player. Okay.
All right. So
he happens to be up there because I can see them going with a cornerback or something else with that pick at 40 or 36, who's ever up there. But this is where I think that these 2 picks are going to go. I agree with you, Trev, on that. It's going to be offensive linemen. If they stay at 36 and 40, it's going to be offensive linemen and it's going to be edge. They can flip-flop based on where they're at, but that's likely where they're going to go if they keep those picks, both because this is a very talented tackle class and they do need one and they can get a good one. And then edge rushers are premium. These are ones where you want to get a good edge rusher. Again, the second most important position in the game of football is an edge rusher. Somebody get after the QB, right? If you don't, you need a QB to win games, and you need to stop the other person's QB. And an edge rusher will do that, or a sack machine will do that.
Would you be okay with them moving up back into the first round to take an edge as opposed to a left tackle?
No.
I mean, I would have to look at what I don't even know if I've looked at the edges available.
Yes, yes, I would. Yes, I would.
Top. There's
yes, I would.
Or you would be
Yes,
good
I
with
would.
that though?
No, I would not be good with that. After the quarterback, since it's the second most important position on the field, you need a left tackle.
Yeah.
Edge you can go get with the 40th pick, or even maybe third round. You could find one that's like I'm in the rough. But you need to go get your offensive lineman with your second pick in the draft. Period.
I mean, I guess who they would go up for Latu from UCLA. I mean, that's probably the. I mean, that or maybe Jared Verse from Florida State.
Yeah, I don't think you want to move up for guys like that. Those guys are probably going to be available a little bit later. You move up for a left tackle. I don't think you move up for an edge unless you're talking about moving up into like a top 15
to get Chop Robinson. That's the only thing.
I think Chop will be available at 36.
I think Chop is going to be available at 36.
But even so, it's a guy like that he's not a total game changer. But if you got like a Micah Parsons over there, right, and you say, we got to move up and back in and get that guy. But other than that, I don't think you do it for a guy whose ranking you have somewhere in the 20s. I don't think that's worth going and getting like they did with Montez, which I think pretty well worked out for the duration of his time here.
Big Montez fan. Yep.
Yeah, and I think that was a good move for them moving into the first round to do that. But I don't think they need to do that at this point with this particular roster. I think we get a little bit carried away also with this roster where we talk about how this team is so well set up and that they've done such a great job, in this offseason with this roster. This roster is a decent roster, but it's not sort of set up for any sort of long-term run. If you look at what they've done in the offseason, they've signed 27 guys. Maybe it's even higher, 29. What
was it? 16 that are Adam Peters signings, and then there's several like re-signings, some small re-signings and whatnot, right?
I think there's like 29 total signings. But yes, guys like Lucas and Crowder and Jeremy Reeves, guys like that are re-signed, F.A. Obata. But they brought in like 29 guys, and there's only 4 of them who are on a deal longer than 2 years. This is a roster that's still completely in flux.
Mm-hmm.
And so they haven't sort of – and the guys they brought in, though, are on these one-year deals are guys who everybody said these are culture changers, right? These are guys you want in your room to sort of build, not a culture change, a culture builder. So your guys like Fowler and Wagner and Ertz and Eckler, guys like that, those guys aren't going to be here in 2 years. And so you need guys in all of these different positions. So that's why I do caution a little bit about taking 36 and 40 and moving up into the first round, because you need 36 and 40. You need 2 guys. Really, this roster is just, it's not really strong right now for the long-term success that they want to have. And so that's why this draft is so important to me. But left tackle, you got to have. You've got to figure out that left tackle. And that's kind of why I think they botched it. They still got a ton of cap space.
He's not going to let it go, Trev.
What they're hoping, I think what they're
hoping.
We
don't know who they're talking to. We don't know who they're having meetings with behind. We don't know what they're doing. Literally have no idea.
Right. The beauty of it, that's the beauty of Ref the District. We can say whatever we want.
We can say crazy things.
We don't know.
Don't put we in this botching situation right
you
now.
Got a mouse in your pocket?
You You guys
Botching
are
would be
too afraid to jump out there with it.
Too afraid. Were we not paying attention about 30 minutes ago when I said JJ was my pick and is going to be the best quarterback in 5 years?
Not bad. That was a pretty good one. I have to admit, Nathan.
You guys call me the fence sitter all the time. I was not fence sitting there.
No, he wasn't.
Trev wants to draft Matt Ryan again instead of Josh Allen.
Well, you were the one who also you picked JJ, but you
Matt
want
Ryan
to draft
MVP.
Yeah, we're getting to the decision maker conversation later. Let's go with some of the other options here because there are a few other options that they could go. Nes Tecmo here, NES Tecmo, get the best cornerback at 36. Might also need a wide receiver.
Yeah,
depending on the board, there could be a run on those wide receivers. Washington gonna be in the market. Would you be upset with a round 2 cornerback or wide receiver at 36 or 40?
Yeah. And I'm saying that because I don't know. Actually, I don't know why. Cornerback?
You went back-to-back cornerbacks last year, and that's the only reason.
Saying,
there's still a need for one as far as like you want to keep building up this roster because you lost Kendall Fuller.
Oh, that's fine.
I know you were not a Kendall Fuller guy.
That dude was burnt toast. I mean, he was whatever. That's tough because it's hard because I know you don't really go by history because of a different regime, but like Forbes, in a sense, was a reach, but also not because he did lead the FBS and pick sixes and he was a ball hawk and the tape didn't like show why he should be picked as early as it did maybe. But then when he got to the league, it was like, he was getting fits in training camp, like, and then he got on the field and he had 2 good games, and then he was getting benched by like week 7, week 8. Yeah. And I really don't want to repeat that this year, especially with the cornerbacks this year. Like I haven't really heard too many corners outside of this Cam Hart guy I gave from Notre Dame, and then somebody else, but not like last year where you had Gonzalez and Forbes and Kyle Branch, who was kind of a safety cornerback hybrid for Detroit, but. Yeah, I don't – because you can still go get a free agent cornerback vet minimum that can help lead the young cornerback squad that we have in the locker.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to – those guys already, right?
Well, Mike Davis, and like there's still Stephon Gilmore out there. There's still somebody else out there. But like I don't want my cornerback room to be too young, especially with Stoner's point how this season's a lot of 1-year, 2-year deals, a lot of prove-it deals. Mm-hmm. Like I want to have success. I want to build, but like I don't want my cornerback room to be so young to where it's like a liability for us this season. Even though it might not be built for the long run, it's still a season. We still want the common goals to win. So go get your edge. I mean, I think there's a better selection of edges than cornerbacks in the round 2 spot.
And I would definitely be upset with a corner at 36.
Yeah, I don't
because of their needs for the other. Knowing what we know now, assuming that they don't have a left tackle, they don't have these other guys. You can't use one of those picks on a corner when, like you said, Nathan, they spent 2 picks last year, first and the second rounder on a corner. Mm-hmm. Again, we know what's his name? He's kind of a hybrid, Quan Martin. He's a hybrid type guy, whatever, but he's still
really high on Quan Martin. I really like him.
Yeah, but the point is you can't do that. You can't go out and get a corner just because he's the best player available. You can't do that. That's ridiculous. You'll botch it. Don't botch it. They're always botching.
We do have they did do a lot of signings for pass rushers or edges, temporary fixes, which is kind of what we're talking about as far as they still need to kind of make sure that this is something that's addressed sooner than later. Maybe it doesn't have to be this draft. Maybe it doesn't have to be that early. Mm-hmm. Maybe they don't need a Chop Robinson or a Darius Robinson. Maybe they could go later because, cornerbacks are a higher premium and you could get a good edge rusher later. Maybe they trust what they see in Forbes. Maybe they saw that he wasn't used properly. This defense, you hear Dan Quinn and Joe Witt Jr. talk about this, right? They want to turn the ball over. Well, that's why Forbes and Quan Martin were taken, was because they are difference makers in that regard. They are ball hawks, quote unquote. There, I wouldn't be upset if it's the right corner. Like if Stoner teases me every year, I will talk myself into whatever they pick. Every single one, I'll see the positive of whoever they take. I would prefer an edge rusher. Something I would not be upset with, though, is if they take a wide receiver at 36 or 40. I think more and more people are coming to the realization you have Terry McLaurin, you have Jahan Dotson, who you're hoping bounces back after a lackluster sophomore year. A huge gap. A huge gap. And then you got a bunch of, De'Ami
Browners.
You got a bunch of, people are hoping, who's the kid from Penn State? Why can't I think of his name
Tinsley.
right?
Yeah, Mitchell Tinsley.
Tinsley.
Yeah,
The guy was never, didn't get to see much playing time at all.
He's a training camp guy. He's a training camp star.
And people are expecting him to be wide receiver 3. Now, you need to go out and get a wide receiver. Big wide receiver. I would love a big wide receiver because we got a lot of small guys. I just want someone who can catch the ball and blow past guys, right? We got a couple of those guys already, but I do think I think that, to me personally, Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin, even though they got the speed, I would consider them short and intermediate guys. I want he just retired. Why can't I think of his name? Number 11. He was here with the Skins.
Deshaun Jackson.
There we go. Deshaun Jackson. Thank you, Trev. I wanted Deshaun Jackson. I want a guy. He wasn't tall, but he could just fly by people. Get me one of those and let the other guys work the underneath routes. And I think we would be.
I'm kind of the opposite. I want Terry McLaurin,
AJ Brown.
John Dotson can be those flying by you kind of guys. I need that guy to take up the new guy to take up the middle and to draw that defense in so that Terry and Jahan can do their work on the outside. So I do need that big wide receiver 3, whoever you draft. So the kid from Florida State, and then also the kid from
Ricky Pearsall from Florida.
I don't know if Pearsall's that big though, but
Leggett from South Carolina.
Coleman, where did he was
Keon Coleman.
He was at Michigan State. He went to Florida State, right.
There's Troy Franklin from Oregon. He's 6'3".
Yeah, I need one of those bigger guys to take up the middle so that McLaurin and Dotson can do the work on the outside and can be those flyby type.
Maybe they take a tight end then. Who's a tight end around there? That would be something for Washington to do.
Ben Sinnott from Kansas State.
Is he that high? I didn't think that he was that high on the board.
It's like Brock Bowers, then him, I believe, right?
It's not a great tight end class. That's the problem.
Not at all.
And I really think people are trying to talk themselves into Sinnott. It reminds me a little bit of the QB draft from a few years ago, where there just wasn't really a QB. When Pickett went in the first round, nobody else did. People were just trying to talk themselves into these options, and there wasn't really any options. And that's what's happening here. You have Brock Bowers, you have Sinnott, and there's not really anybody. I mean, a lot of people love the Texas kid. Who's the Texas kid? That one gets drafted a lot, I've seen.
The tight end or the
tight end, Texas tight end. Someone's going to have to, put it in there. Yeah. These are people we're trying to talk ourselves into, not ones that I would take very high, not ones that maybe Cole Turner could not just replace. Remember, we had such high hopes for him. How about Armani Rogers coming back from an Achilles injury? There we go. Sanders. Thank you, Grimjaw. Doug in there as well. Rockman hitting that one, and so with TJ. Appreciate the assist there. We can tell that names really aren't my thing, so hopefully we don't draft anybody whose name I struggle mightily to say here. So it looks like we're kind of good with any position outside of what you guys didn't like cornerback. You Stoner, I know you hate this. Interior offensive lineman. You would not want to take one.
Oh, I would.
No.
That's the number one. Well, running back would be number one, but the number one
running back I would
trigger
blow up.
Position for me for the Commanders this offseason in this draft. That would be the number one trigger for me is interior offensive lineman. No, they addressed that already. I don't hate centers. I don't want 4 centers on my team. I don't want to draft a center after we just signed one in free agency. So I don't hate centers.
Locked on Law there with the comment for our audio listeners as far as that. Doug here brought this question up. What's with all these tackles all of a sudden being talked as guards, naming Fuaga? That's a risk, right? That was Sam Cosmi, drafted as a right tackle in the 2nd round.
Yeah.
Got injured, played fairly well, but then they moved him inside and he's been doing really well there. I think a lot of it happens to be just the jump from college to NFL as a tackle is immense. Like I said, when we looked at the data for the top 100 picks over the last 4 years, tackles were very swingy. There was a lot of misses on tackles. It wasn't easy to get the guy, just like it isn't easy to get the QB right, because just, they might have the size, the athleticism, and like the technique, but something doesn't click when they get to the NFL. And so a lot of them, especially those usually with shorter arms, those are the ones you usually start to hear the chatter about moving inside, are the ones who are athletic, but maybe they're just not, they don't have long arms, which is kind of funny to me because a lot of them, have fairly long arms because most of these guys are like 6'5", 6'7".
Right.
But maybe their 35-inch arms just aren't that good enough. So I don't know. So that's an interesting thing. Now, I don't want you to sleep on some of these picks at 36 and 40. And Don't Sleep sponsoring the game here. Don'tSleepEnergy.com. Use the code DISTRICT. Get yourself 10% off and do yourself a favor. Great energy drinks. If you're feeling sleepy in the afternoon, use one of their energy shots. I tell you what, 4 hours are going to go by and you're going to be the most productive person you've ever been in your life. They're a great local company, DMV company, so support your local businesses. Don't Sleep Energy makes you great. Now, don't sleep on some of you people in the comment section coming up with some great scenarios for us. Gus Bus here with one. Would you be happy if Washington hits on the QB, the number 2 pick, but then the rest of the draft picks were lackluster?
Would I be happy?
Would you be happy?
I'd be content.
I'd be ecstatic if that
happened. I'd be ecstatic because yes, we have a quarterback, but at the same time, like, we got too many holes. And last time I checked, the quarterback doesn't throw the ball to himself. He doesn't edge rush himself and pass. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have too many holes. And I'm not trying to be greedy. I'm just being realistic. Yes, quarterback is number 1 priority. It's been like that for the past 10 years, since RG3 and Kirk Cousins. Yes, I'd be super happy if we land on a quarterback. But it steers away from what they said at the beginning of the season. We build this roster through the draft. Okay, so you got your quarterback, but then you went and got all these no-name guys or just whatever, and here we are at 3-4 and 4-13 again. Our quarterback's great, putting up numbers for him personally, but we're at 4-13 and possibly talking about another quarterback next year because we're 4-13 or what else. I don't want to do that again. You got to hit on at least more than just the quarterback. If you want to keep your job, like Stoner said, if he botches the quarterback but then does everything else, is he going to stay here next year? Well, if he gets the quarterback and botches everything else, then we're 4-13. That's going to start being the conversation at the end of the season. So, yes, we got your quarterback. I'm happy. I'm ecstatic too, but we need more help than just a quarterback this season because we have too many holes. So,
well,
that's
I think maybe
the biggest hole we have is the quarterback.
I think maybe the comparisons we might want to look at that is, would you rather be the Chargers?
Oh my God! Him starting on these other teams. Would you rather be Carolina, the Chargers,
I gotta
the
change
DC
out
Defenders,
his wardrobe? Get that W off.
the UFL Spring Alabamas? Would you rather be them, or would you rather be the CFL juggernauts from Toronto?
Would you rather be the Chargers, or would you rather be the Giants? Would you rather be the Chargers? You got your quarterback, right? You don't have much else around him. You haven't had a ton of success with him. And you, right? Or would you rather be the Giants, to where you're not sure if you have your quarterback, you're drafting the quarterback, you might draft another quarterback, you're not hitting, but you've gotten to the playoffs with him in one particular year, but then the next year you're terrible again, and you're not sure about the quarterback, and you're looking at the draft. You know what I mean? Would you rather be the Chargers situation, or would you rather be in the Giants situation? It's a tough one, right? It's a tough one.
Giants made the playoffs. The Chargers
with the defense,
The Giants have made the playoffs once, and the Chargers have not. Or maybe did the Chargers that one? No, they didn't.
They had the chance. That was the day. That was the time they wanted a tie.
Yeah,
and Staley botched it.
Oh
and
man,
the Raiders went in.
And I mean, they're in salary cap hell too, right? Because they had to get rid of their receivers and all kinds of guys.
We're picking up Eckler because that's somebody they couldn't keep around. I would think the Chargers, because I feel. 100%. I mean, look at the Rams. You know, they had a QB and then they went for it. Mm-hmm. They went big. They got Stafford, and then they just grabbed all the big names that they could to be difference makers, and they did one good run. They're just an okay team now. They're trying to start getting back into building their roster and everything. But I just feel like that QB is so important. But I mean, if we're saying that QB hits, we're saying that QB is a 10. That QB is somebody who you're like, this guy, you just put some talent around this person, and you're going to be a playoff contender year after year. I think I'd rather have that than, 3 or 4 years from now, looking back and going, okay, like the Bears. And, the Bears lucked out. They so lucked out getting that number 1 pick. Remember, they were in line last year, traded out. Carolina moves up to get Bryce Young, and the Bears are actually picking 9th. They're not a bad team. They're not a good team, but they're not a bad team. Now they have the first pick. They're going to get a QB who's a lock for number 1, who could be a franchise changer for them. And then they're going to get the 9th pick as well. Like, they are so lucky to be in that position, but you don't get that, right? If they didn't make that trade last year, they're with Justin Fields and picking 9th. Mm-hmm. Which means they're out of range of any of the top 4 QBs. They're going to have to move up if they want a JJ McCarthy or Jayden Daniels or Drake May, whoever falls. And I just don't know that I want that. I don't want to be waiting for 3 or 4 years.
I might get some hate about this, but I might say Giants, and hear me out.
You got the floor, sir.
We made the postseason. Isn't that what we're playing this game for? Is to go to the postseason?
Yeah,
and
won a game, right? Beat the Vikings
and tough it out when you don't have any receivers. Where Sterling Shepard is like one of your main receivers. Where Barkley's injured all the time, Daniel Jones is injured all the time, but you grit it out. You win the games you're supposed to win in your division to get to the postseason. Then you win a game. Rather than having offensive talent and all these superstars like the Chargers had on both sides of the ball, the Khalil Macks, the Keenan Allens, the Mike Williams, the Austin Ecklers, the Justin Herberts, and you only put up gaudy stats in the regular season, but you don't make the postseason, and you keep building around Justin Herbert, you keep building the offense and the defense, and you still have the same result. I'm going to pick the Giants. Yeah, Daniel Jones is inconsistent, but he took us to the postseason. Yeah, he might not have thrown for 4,000 yards and like a 20-5 touchdown interception ratio, but we went to the postseason. Yeah, he didn't have a Keenan Allen and a Mike Williams to throw to, and we went to the playoffs and won a game. Yeah, we we're in a lot of games of the season, but we always end up losing them, and our coach is on the hot seat almost every season for the past 4 years. We went to the postseason with a coach on the hot seat. I'm going to take the Giants because we went to the postseason. Plain and simple.
I mean, we could also go with a team because
someone puts these comparisons.
That was a good one. That was a good one. Some people were asking for a different team than the Giants.
Steelers was actually my first thought, but
Steelers could have been an option there, not having the QB. You could even go a different team than the Chargers. The Bills. They hit on their QB, but they've not been overly successful in the draft, and they've not been able to get over that hump, right? And then,
but they're in the playoffs every year.
Yeah, they get there.
They get there every year
based off of the QB play. And
Right.
I mean, look at, they're doing a fire sale right now, and they're having to rebuild, and they haven't, like I said, they have not had overly successful drafts to kind of get them there. I think it's important that the back end of the draft does have some talent, but right now, if you lock in that QB, I think it would be a much better in the long run for my sanity, at least,
Yeah, no joke.
to not have to go into another off season talking about QBs and ranking them. I really love the March Madness QB edition thing we're doing, but I would love for it to be the last one I have to do on Ref the District. Okay.
Yes.
So it's,
I agree.
it's a tough choice. It really is. But I would definitely say go for it. For those maybe just jumping in here, we're trying to answer Gus Bus's question. Would you be happy if you hit on the QB this draft, but the rest of the picks had a lackluster year? I mean, and it's also, that's year one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just because they had a lackluster rookie year doesn't mean they can't come back and have a decent career. And like, if we get some decent starting quality out of them, maybe they're not here. Maybe they don't get a second contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the QB does. I would consider that a successful draft. I mean, you only, even with as many picks as Washington has, you're lucky to hit on 2 or 3 that get a second contract that are difference makers. You're extremely lucky if that happens. So make that difference maker the difference maker.
Amen.
So we had another question here for the panel from the Code Talker. What do you think about sliding Cosme out to right tackle, then draft an interior offensive lineman in the third? You still need that left tackle.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it all depends on the new decision makers if they think that Cosme would make a good right tackle. But he played right tackle and wasn't very good at it. That's why
he actually did fairly decent, but they still moved him into guard.
They didn't move him into guard because they brought in Trent Williams to play right tackle. They moved him into guard because they brought in Andrew Wiley to play right tackle. And that should probably tell you what they thought of Sam Cosme at right tackle. If they thought Andrew Wiley was a better right tackle than Sam Cosme. So but that's a different regime making those decisions and making those evaluations. So maybe they will see Cosme as a right tackle and they'll draft a right guard. So there's that possibility. It's just like, would this regime have selected Emmanuel Forbes in the first round last year? Maybe they would have taken Gonzalez. Maybe they would have taken somebody else.
So excited for that Gonzo pick.
So I don't know that Forbes is necessarily going to excel because he may just not be a fit for what Quinn and Witt like to do. So we're just going to have to wait and see on that. But yeah, I mean, I would probably hate that just because I don't think Sam Cosme is a right tackle at this point.
This one's bold from Locked On Law. Jamin Davis is not playing here if this regime is drafting. I think people are going to see a different Davis this year. And I think people are going to like what they see. I don't know that it means that he's going to continue playing here. One of the things with Jamin Davis, kind of similar with Forbes, is they drafted him probably higher than they should have.
Mm-hmm.
And then they put him in positions that they were not going to be successful in.
Weird.
Jamin Davis is not your Mike linebacker. He's not a middle linebacker.
Right.
He's got range to play it, but that's not his mindset, his skill set. Right. And then Emmanuel Forbes was an off, plays 10 yards off the ball. He needs to see the QB. He plays zone and he plays it well. And then they put Emmanuel Forbes in man coverage against some of the best wide receivers.
Right.
And that's why he wasn't successful.
Right.
That's not his talent. That's not what he's good for. He's got the length for it, right? He's a scrawny guy, but at least he's a tall, lanky, cornerback that is the rage right now. But his play style was zone, ball hawking, watching the QB making plays, which is something Washington was doing with their QB or with their cornerbacks rather. And then all of a sudden they have him as a rookie going up against Stephon Diggs. And it was, what are you doing? What are you doing? But we don't have to worry about that now. We have an entirely different staff. Joe Witt Jr. is going to take over this defense. Dan Quinn is the head coach. Kliff Kingsbury on the offense. He's not going to be Eric Bieniemy, and Adam Peters at the head of the table. So now the question is, who is the decision maker? We'll talk about it here in the cool down. Welcome to the cool down here on episode 167 of Ref the District. We are bringing up, and maybe this time I'll actually switch over the branding for this one. Got it this time. Is the decision maker. Gus Bus had asked in one of the QB March Madness QB editions, he had commented, who is the one picking? Because you have Adam Peters, who is the GM. It seems like he would be the decision maker. He is the one who's going to be controlling the draft, the talent evaluator. But then you also have Dan Quinn, who's the head coach. What does Dan Quinn want? What's his voice inside the war room when it comes to picking this QB? Does he get who he wants? Because he's talked about game changers and difference makers and somebody who he, as a defensive-minded coach, would be afraid to be lining up against. Or you have Kliff Kingsbury, who is a QB guru. And I put those air quotes on that one, but has had a lot of success picking QBs and knowing where to put them and how to put them in successful positions. So whose voice is the one who needs to be heard in this one?
Now, I'm going to let you guys go first because, shocker, I'm probably going to be a lot different than everybody else. Can we do like a percentage breakdown? Let's go a percentage of those three guys.
You have to have all of buy-in, right? It's got to be some sort of.
But I'm just saying, like, percentage of power, just for this number 2 pick, for between Peters, Quinn, and Kingsbury. Who would you say has the highest percentage of power? Let's just say, like, is it 33%, 33%, 33% across the board?
No.
For the number 2 pick? Or does somebody have a higher percentage of power to make that decision?
The heck was that? Man, I'm going to say
speechless
that
here.
For me, for the number 2 pick, I think it's ultimately Adam Peters. But that's with him going to Kliff and Dan being like, okay, what kind of offense are you trying to run? What are we trying to do offensively? How are we trying to do it offensively? What is our goal on the offensive side of the ball? Mm-hmm. Kliff tells him, Dan Quinn tells him, Adam Peters takes notes, goes and evaluates that specific kind of talent, brings it back, they converse. They might have a couple tiebreakers, and Adam Peters just says, hey, I think it's this one, and he makes the decision on that. But I do think it's heavily influenced on voice-wise for number 2, Kliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn. Dan Quinn asked Kliff Kingsbury, what kind of offense what do you want to do? He interviews Kliff. Kliff says, I can do this offensively. Adam's like, what do you want to do? This is what I want to do offensively. Adam's like, okay, I can find those kind of guys for you. And make it. So the decision maker is Adam Peters, but heavily influenced by Dan Quinn and Kliff Kingsbury, and maybe even Joe Witt Jr. further down the draft. But number 2, Kliff and Dan, 60% of the power and 40% Adam Peters, but he makes the decision.
How's that fence sitting for you there, Trev?
That makes. Because it's tough. Because I don't really think that Adam's like, okay, well, I don't care what, Kliff, you like Jayden Daniels, but I love Drake May, but it's like Kliff's going to be calling the plays, bro. Like, I'm not doubting.
Yeah, but Kliff Kingsbury, if he's successful, he's gone in 2 years.
Right. But, if this is the guy that you want, that you know you can be successful, you're 100% sure, and he's one of my guys too, I'm gonna go ahead with him. I don't think it's gonna be like, well, I like Drake Maye just because I was, friends with his offensive coordinator at North Carolina when he was there. But Kliff's like, but he doesn't fit the mold really. But Adam's like, oh well, I'm taking. Then that's 100% Adam. But I don't see that happening at all. I don't. I don't.
Yeah, Grimjaw here. I believe Adam Peters already answered this question. It's a collaborative effort, but ultimately Adam Peters pulls the trigger.
But okay.
Yeah, and I mean Trev is right in the sense that Adam Peters, and there was another comment earlier that I had up here, Deluxe. Peters will have final say in choosing a player that fits the coach's desire at the position. Now, here's where I'm going to go. I'm saying Adam Peters point blank. Okay, that's what I'm going with. He is the decision maker. Now, here's the thing. He's also the decision maker who hired Dan Quinn. And he was in the room when Dan Quinn hired Kliff Kingsbury. So I do believe they're all on the same page. They know the type of QB that they want.
Mm-hmm.
But as the GM, he's the one responsible for picking the players to match the coach. And the coach's job is to coach the QB taken by the GM.
I think those are all fair. But I'm actually putting the majority of the power in this pick, in the number 2 pick, not in the roster and everything. I actually give the majority of the power to Kliff Kingsbury. The majority of the power to Kliff Kingsbury.
That's a wild one.
Not Adam Peters. Adam Peters is responsible. It's a collaborative effort. Blah, blah, blah. That's all sort of public affairs, public relations talk. That's what you're supposed to say.
Mm-hmm.
But Kliff Kingsbury is the one that's designing the offense. Kliff Kingsbury is the one who is developing the quarterback. Kliff Kingsbury and his staff. Okay, don't get me wrong. It's not all on Kliff Kingsbury.
Sure.
But in terms of what they want to do offensively, it's all on him.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that should be having the biggest say in who that quarterback should be. Dan Quinn should have about a 1% voice in this. Dan Quinn has hired an offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator to run those sides of the ball and to be out of the day-to-day operations, right? He's the CEO type.
Yeah.
He has hired these guys. He's empowered them to be in charge of the different sides of the ball. So if Kliff Kingsbury is going to be the guy who decides what happens across the board on offense, he should have the most say in who should be the quarterback they selected number 2. Adam Peters is the guy who's going to take the blame or the credit, whoever they take.
Yep. Right.
But it's Kliff Kingsbury has to have the most say. If it comes down to this, if Dan Quinn wants Drake Maye and Adam Peters wants Drake Maye and Kliff Kingsbury wants Jayden Daniels, they damn sure better take Jayden Daniels.
Exactly. That's what I was getting to. Yep.
Yeah. They should take who Kliff Kingsbury wants, not who Adam Peters wants, and definitely not who Dan Quinn wants. Dan Quinn's the head coach. He's in charge of putting everybody in the position. We all said that. What does he do well?
He
puts people, he hires the right guys, and he puts them in a position to do their job well. That's his best quality as a head coach. So do that and get out of the way. And let Kliff Kingsbury do what he's got to do.
I actually kind of agree with this, Stoner, in the sense that if you want to be successful, you got to give your offensive coach somebody to be successful with, however they want to do it. So I guess that voice is going to be bigger than Dan Quinn's. And I think we can all agree with Locked On Law here. As long as Josh Harris has 0%.
I mean, 0%.
0%.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. That is definitely something we can get behind. But I guess that's interesting. I didn't think about that because I'm with people in the sense that this Kliff Kingsbury is going to be gone in a couple of years, one way or the other, right? The offense is either going to be bad and he's going to be gone, or he's going to be a great offensive coordinator and people are going to try to make him a head coach again.
Yeah.
and try him out. So like he's going to be gone. So I honestly felt like picking quarterback for him didn't make sense because then when he's gone, what you have to find somebody who can work with your QB. But what we're talking about here is drafting a QB who is foolproof, right? Like, you can have Eric Bieniemy and Andy Reid, fighting for whoever's calling you plays, but Mahomes is still going to be good. Dabble went to the Giants, and Josh is still good out there in Buffalo, right? So you need your QB to be, especially with a defensive-minded coach like Dan Quinn, you need that QB to be offensive coordinator proof. So I didn't really think Kliff Kingsbury, but you're right. If you want to be successful now with this coaching staff,
yeah,
you're gonna want them to have weigh in.
Again, when you start thinking about, well, maybe Kliff Kingsbury is going to be gone in 2 years, whether he does well or he doesn't. I get that, but you can't build your roster thinking that. You can't.
No,
you have to get a Kliff Kingsbury, and then you have to get a quarterback coach, and you have to get a succession, an offensive succession, that if Kliff Kingsbury leaves, then the next guy is ready to move into his position, whoever that may be. Again, might be Tavita Pritchard, or it might be somebody different who they end up bringing in. But you can't make these decisions based on, Kliff might be gone in 2 years. You just can't think that way.
And to back up Stoner with Kliff, I think Kliff, what helps with that is that the quarterbacks he's worked with, and he's proven that he can develop a quarterback, like not just run an offense, but he can develop a quarterback. And that is what we need with the number 2 pick. So it should definitely be up to him, because this is the guy that he's going to be standing beside every single day. Like this is what he does. He doesn't just run an offense. He molds the quarterback. Patrick Mahomes, the list is long. Kyler Murray, we all know
Baker Mayfield. Yep.
Baker Mayfield, Caleb Williams, Case Keenum. Like,
Excuse
so
me,
the
sorry.
quarterback guru makes sense for us in this pick. Now, if we had a quarterback already and we had a number 2 pick, would it really matter to Kliff Kingsbury then?
No. The rest of the draft,
right?
It's all Adam Peters.
No, I'm saying like we already have a quarterback, but we have the number 2 pick. We're not picking a quarterback this year with number 2.
Right.
We already have him.
Right.
But we have Kliff Kingsbury. Is it still up to Kliff then at the number 2 pick?
No, absolutely not. It's just this one pick at the number 2 that's going to be a quarterback, that's going to be the franchise builder.
Yes.
Which is probably one of the reasons why they hired him in the first place, right? They wanted not just his offensive mind on the field, which he's ran several successful offenses. One of the things Locked On Law talks about here, Kliff has proven he makes 0 adjustments to his player personnel, so the QB does not matter. That's not necessarily correct. He actually makes those adjustments in the beginning of the season. His biggest knock is he doesn't make those adjustments during the season, after the season. But that's something hopefully he's grown with his time in USC with Lincoln Riley. And also you got to think there's other coaches. You have Anthony Lynn, you have Brian Johnson that are all feeding into this to help build this. But Kliff Kingsbury was absolutely brought on as that guy who, hey, we need your input. Kliff probably talked to Adam Peters about, hey, this is what you would get if you move up for Caleb Williams, but here's my thoughts on the other quarterbacks.
Yeah, 100%.
For sure.
Yeah, I don't think it's a case where they're going to be like this, trying to figure out who they're going to draft at number 2. But, just it's fun to talk about that. If they were like this, then the Kingsbury voice should be a lot stronger than the Adam Peters voice for this pick. But I don't think they are like this. I think they're going to have very similar grades, and they're going to, all the PR words that they've used, the unified vision, talking it through and all this other stuff. I think that's mostly true. I think they are kind of all on the same page with this, and whoever they draft, they're going to come out and they're going to say, this is who we both wanted. This is who we all wanted. And we never doubted for a second that it should be anybody else. And then they'll go for it. But if there was this huge disparity between, say, Jayden Daniels and Drake Maye, and we all know there really isn't, it's kind of one or the other, we're not going to complain whoever they take. But if there was this huge disparity, then you would want Kliff Kingsbury making that power move to get his guy.
See, this is the biggest question here, Deluxe, when it comes to the QB decision. Deluxe asking, do any of these QBs not work for a scheme that is not yet known? Are any scheme dependent? And I think that's what's exciting for the position that Washington is in with the coaching staff they have, is they could use any of the top 3 QBs and potentially get the most potential out of them. I really do believe in the staff that Washington has, that if they take Jayden Daniels, that they're going to get the most out of Jayden Daniels. If they take Drake Maye, they're going to get the most out of Drake Maye. If they take JJ McCarthy, they're going to get the most out of JJ McCarthy. And any of these QBs, really, if you look at what they've said about what they're looking in a QB, right? They want a dynamic QB. All of those QBs are athletic and can make throws on the run. Or Jayden Daniels, he's an electric runner, but Drake Maye can pick up yards on the ground. JJ McCarthy can pick it up there. They all have the arm strength to throw it over the defense, right? They have the talent and the position that they're looking for, which is why nobody knows what they're going to do at 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you're never going to, or good coaches should never try and mold a guy into their scheme or their system. It should always be taking advantage of what that player does well and building a scheme around them. It should never be, well, Kliff Kingsbury runs this certain type of offense, so they need to find a quarterback to fit that off. It should never be that way. You take the best pro prospect and then build an offense on what he does well.
Yep.
Well, Gibbs, old school, coming in, looks like watching the beginning here and commenting, saying, you always swing for the fences and draft a 10.
Yes,
that's my question in the
Jayden
beginning.
Daniels.
Is Jayden Daniels isn't in this one. Jayden Daniels is in the finals. He's waiting for a QB to face off of. We all picked JJ McCarthy. The viewers overwhelmingly have picked Drake Maye.
Mm-hmm.
We have to decide who is Jayden Daniels going to be in the finals. That will be airing on Monday. And then the winner going up against whether or not it's worth it to go up and get Caleb Williams. So the question is, do we side with the viewers who say, like Gibbs does, you swing for the fences and draft a 10, like Stoner said?
Mm-hmm.
Drake Maye being the one who has that 10 potential, but could also be a 1. Or JJ McCarthy, which looks like the safer pick overall, but maybe not as exciting. JJ doesn't have a lot of exciting tapes. He has a lot of consistent tapes, and that's what I went with. And I'm still going to go with that. JJ McCarthy, he makes the layups. He takes the easy throws. Daniel Jeremiah talked about it actually with Mina Kimes just recently. I think maybe even I watched it this morning. I think it came out this morning. JJ McCarthy is not going to get bored of completions. He will methodically just take whatever the defense is getting him, move the ball down the field. He'll take shots when he's asked to take shots. He'll do that when he needs to. Drake Maye sometimes misses those layups, and that's why I looks for the bigger play, which is why that's why I'm sticking with JJ.
Yeah.
But we have to decide who is our Kliff Kingsbury, Stoner. Do the fans have the most say? Who, again, overwhelmingly 60% have gone with, over 60% have gone with Drake Maye. Or do we have a say? Are we Dan Quinn in this? Are we Adam Peters, where we're just going to follow what the viewers have selected?
Nah, we're taking JJ McCarthy. The man won a national championship. I mean, I don't know what he played for a former NFL quarterback who knows the position pretty darn well, I believe. He won a national championship. What did Drake Maye do? 8-4. Cool. In the ACC.
I don't care about records. Yeah.
I do. I mean, it kind of.
Mahomes was crappy in the Big 12, and like, what do you want? Like,
well, that's because he was special in the Big 12. Drake Maye is not that
Drake
special
Maye
to
has
me,
some
bro.
special
When you
talent.
described him earlier, you didn't use any cool adjectives. You used strong arm, he can move, and da. When you said Jayden Daniels, you said electric, playmaking. Like that's what we. It's not the no-brainer. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, 50 touchdowns.
We're not talking about Jayden Daniels, though.
I know we're not, but Drake Maye is just.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, it's Sam Howell 2.0, I promise. We said this exact same description about Sam Howell when he pinned us. Strong arm, looking for the big play, risk taker, moxie, can be mobile, can be athletic, can
does
pull
have a lot of
over.
moxie.
It's the same thing we're saying about Drake Maye, literally the same thing. And their tapes are pretty similar. They really, really are. When you watch McCarthy, he's orthodox, he's disciplined, he's meticulous with the ball, calculated, makes all the like you said, the layups.
But okay, true.
I'm taking JJ national championship.
The question is, though, the real question is for our content on Monday to go up
March
against
Madness QB edition.
JJ McCarthy.
Are we going with what we think it should be?
Yes.
Or are we going what the viewers think it should be?
No, we posed the question. We're going to answer what we think it should be. And we're picking JJ McCarthy.
I'm with you, Trent. Yeah. Kliff Kingsbury, Joe Wynn Jr., and Dan Quinn over there, or Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, Kliff Kingsbury. We're going with JJ McCarthy.
All right. JJ is moving on to the finals.
Sorry, Jerry.
Against Jayden Daniels in our March Madness QB. The upset is alive in the making. That one will come out on Monday. Stoner and I will probably debate on whether or not we'll do a separate video or if we'll just tag in the Caleb Williams discussion to that one. So that will be an off-screen discussion. But on screen right now, with 13 minutes left, let's do the quickest mock draft that we can potentially do, as that is what we like to do here in the month of April, is get these out of the way. So I'm going to share the
Jayden Daniels at number 2.
No, I'm going to actually, for the fun of it, I'm actually going to take Drake Maye just because we're leaving him out of this, and there's a lot of Maye love. So I'm extending an olive branch to the I'm extending an olive branch to our fans, our viewers, by taking Drake Maye. So let's enter this draft on the clock. It's going to be Caleb Williams taken, and we are going to take Drake Maye because that's what they wanted to do. So we'll take Drake Maye here. Again, using PFF. Do we pause? Do we trade up?
Yes.
Okay, where would we like to?
Yeah, now we have to, because we got Drake Maye. We need some help now, for real.
Well, hang on. Who got taken already? Alt got taken?
Nope. Yep.
Right, so just
trade up and go get Fashanu or whatever his name is.
Fashanu, or I like the dude from Washington, actually. Fauta. Trade up with the Jets at 10.
The Jets at 10?
Yeah. See what we got to do to take that.
All right. Jets at 10. So, I didn't hit it quick enough.
I took Fashanu, the one I just said.
I didn't do it quick enough. I have to slow this down a little bit.
Oh, Fashanu got taken at 10. See, what did I say?
Yes.
What did I say? You got off the Jets at 10.
Yeah, I was trying to. I was not quick enough.
Wow.
So we're not going to get. How far do we want to go then?
Well, just go to like 13.
11. Go to 11 now.
I think you can get one in the late teens here. I don't think you have to.
I don't think you can get the dude from Washington too much later.
All right. So you want to go? You want to go to 13? How about 16? No, 14. Yeah, we have to go to 13 because tackles needed at with the Saints.
All right, we'll go 13.
Yeah, got to go 13.
All right. So Vegas. We're stopping at Vegas.
Yeah.
All right. So we are going to offer 36 and 40.
Yeah.
36 and 40, and we're going to take 13.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see if they do that. They
did
took it. They took it.
JJ McCarthy went 12.
I wouldn't hate it.
So Fuaga.
That dude right there.
You want Troy, right? Like he looks pretty good. I do like this. I don't know if 13's where I would go with, up for that, but I mean, there we go.
Dang,
all right,
man,
that's
we
it.
traded to 13.
Yeah, I mean, we're pretty good until the third round. So I think that
I
that's
don't like.
all.
I don't. I don't like that.
Would you be
I don't
good?
like that.
I'm not exactly excited about it. We can go
I'm not
faster. man,
excited
'cause
really.
We're not picking. Did I only do the top
Yeah.
two? Yeah, we only did
I mean,
I only did the top 2 rounds because it was and so this is it. This is all we did.
No, I don't know if I can get down with that.
What did we get for grade?
We got an A+ and an A plus overall.
Man, I'm a genius at this.
Now we got to wait a whole round to go.
They said you can, if you draft their guy, they'll be a little bit higher. But I mean, hey, that's how this draft went. Just wanted to do a quick one because we did talk about the draft. We gave our viewers what they wanted. Drake Maye with the 2nd overall pick, and we got a tackle. Not in the 2nd round, though. We didn't wait. We moved up, and that's what we believe is going to happen in round 2. This was an interesting episode. We appreciate everybody jumping in with us here on episode 167. We stream live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We encourage everybody to join the conversation. Conversation's been going wild in the chat. There's been uniforms. There's been players that they want. We appreciate it. We try to interact with it as much as possible, and we enjoy when you join the conversation. If you do listen to this on your favorite audio platform, make sure you leave us a rating and review. It helps other people find the channel and join in the conversation. More than almost 400 people watching today. I hope that you've hit that like button. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back on Monday with our March Madness QB edition. Jayden Daniels versus JJ McCarthy. Spoiler alert, someone is a big old Danny boy, and I don't think I'm going to be able to talk him off of it, but maybe you can in the comment section when we do it. But until next time,
box the left tackle, Trev.
Be a fan.